Captain Christoph Hilton leaned back in his chair. The hum of Domeka's engines a familiar and comforting presence. Stars streaked past the viewports in elongated lines of light as the ship sped through hyperspace, heading towards the planet Valoria. Known for its warrior women and strict societal codes, Valoria was a place of both fascination and danger. Christoph's mission was straightforward: negotiate a trade deal for the rare crystals from the Andromeda sector, a highly sought-after commodity in this part of the galaxy. Christoph glanced at the navigation console, the planet's coordinates glowing softly on the screen. Valoria, he murmured, tapping the display. Let's see what you're all about. His eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the readouts. Everything was in order. He'd been on countless missions, each with its own set of risks and rewards. But there was something about this one that felt different. The descent through Valoria's atmosphere was smooth, Domeka's advanced stabilizers compensating for the planet's turbulent winds. As the ship broke through the cloud cover, Christoph caught his first glimpse of the surface. Vast stretches of rugged terrain interspersed with patches of green and the gleam of metal from the city structures below. He directed the ship towards the landing coordinates provided by Mia, a prominent merchant he'd been in contact with for months. As Domeka touched down on the landing pad, Christoph powered down the engines and prepared to disembark. The hatch hissed open and the ramp extended to the ground. A wave of dry, warm air greeted him, carrying the scent of unfamiliar flora. Christoph descended the ramp, his boots clanking on the metal surface. Valoria's capital city, Lysandria, sprawled before him. Tall, imposing buildings with a mix of ancient and modern architecture dominated the skyline. The streets were bustling with activity, and everywhere Christoph looked, he saw the unmistakable presence of Valoria's warrior women. Tall, muscular, and exuding an air of confidence and authority, they moved with a grace that belied their strength. Their armor, sleek and functional, caught the sunlight, casting brief flashes of light. Christoph made his way through the crowded marketplace, drawing curious glances from the locals. He was used to being an outsider, but the intensity of the stares here was different. There was a mixture of curiosity and wariness, as if they were sizing him up, assessing whether he was a threat or just another trader passing through. He reached the meeting point where Mia's trading post was located. The building was a blend of traditional Valorian stonework and modern design, a testament to the planet's rich history and its embrace of technological advancement. As Christoph approached, the doors slid open silently, and he stepped inside. Mia was waiting for him. Tall and statuesque, with sharp features and piercing eyes, she was every bit the formidable figure he'd imagined. Captain Hilton, she greeted him with a nod, her voice steady and commanding. "Welcome to Valoria." Mia, Christoph replied, extending his hand. "It's a pleasure to finally meet in person." She took his hand in a firm grip. "The pleasure is mine. I trust your journey was uneventful." "Smooth as silk," he said with a grin. "Shall we get down to business?" Mia led him to a spacious room at the back of the trading post, where samples of the rare crystals were laid out on a table. Their iridescent glow filled the room with a soft, mesmerizing light. Christoph inspected the crystals, noting their flawless quality. "These are exceptional," he remarked. "We pride ourselves on the best," Mia replied. "The question is, what do you have to offer in return?" The negotiation that followed was intense but professional. Christoph presented his case, detailing the benefits of the crystals and what he was willing to offer in exchange. Mia countered with her own terms, and for a while they went back and forth, each pushing for the best possible deal. In the end, they reached an agreement that satisfied both parties. With the trade deal sealed, Christoph felt a sense of accomplishment. Yet, as he left Mia's trading post, a strange sensation crept over him. It was as if he were being watched. He glanced around but saw nothing out of the ordinary. Shaking off the feeling, he made his way back to Domeka. Unbeknownst to Christoph, a pair of eyes had indeed been watching him closely. From a shadowed balcony overlooking the marketplace, Princess Lila observed the foreigner with a mixture of hostility and intrigue. The tales of the galaxy beyond Valoria had always fascinated her, but duty and tradition kept her bound to her royal obligations. As she watched Christoph disappear into the crowd, a spark of curiosity ignited within her, setting the stage for an encounter that would change both their lives forever. Princess Lila stood at the window of her chamber, her gaze fixed on the figure below. Captain Christoph Hilton, the foreigner who had stirred the marketplace with his presence, was negotiating with Mia, the planet's shrewdest merchant. His confident demeanor and the ease with which he navigated the tense negotiation intrigued her. He was unlike anyone she had ever encountered. Lila had always been bound by duty and expectation. As the daughter of Queen Lysandra, her life was a series of obligations and protocols, each more suffocating than the last. The impending marriage to a nobleman from a neighboring planet was yet another chain, one she could hardly bear to consider. But here was Kristoff, a man from the stars, carrying with him the scent of adventure and the promise of freedom. The princess turned away from the window, her mind racing. She had to meet him, to understand what it was about this man that pulled at her so insistently. That night, while the palace slept, Lila donned a simple cloak and slipped into the shadows, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. In the heart of the marketplace, Kristoff was inspecting his newly acquired crystals. The transaction with Mia had gone smoothly, but he couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been watching him. He glanced around, the fading light casting eerie shadows, but saw nothing. Shaking off the unease, he turned back to his task, unaware of the figure approaching him from the darkness. "Captain Hilton," a voice called softly. Kristoff looked up, his hand instinctively moving to the hilt of his dagger. A woman stood before him, cloaked and hooded, her face obscured by the shadows. Her voice, though, was unmistakably regal. "Who's asking?" he replied cautiously, his eyes narrowing. The woman stepped into the light, lowering her hood. Kristoff's breath caught in his throat. Princess Lila's reputation preceded her, but seeing her in person was something else entirely. Her eyes, a deep, piercing blue, held a mixture of curiosity and determination. "I am Princess Lila," she said, her voice steady despite the rapid beat of her heart. "I've come to speak with you, Captain." Kristoff straightened, his wariness replaced by intrigue. "To what do I owe this honor, Your Highness?" Lila glanced around, ensuring they were alone. "Not here," she whispered urgently. "Follow me." They moved through the darkened streets, their footsteps echoing softly against the cobblestones. Lila led Kristoff to a secluded garden within the palace grounds, a place she often came to think. The air was filled with the sweet scent of night-blooming flowers, and the moon cast a silvery glow over the scene. Once they were safely hidden from prying eyes, Lila turned to Kristoff. "I know you must think this strange, a princess seeking out a stranger in the night. But I had to meet you. I had to meet you. I had to know what kind of man could negotiate with Mia and remain unruffled." Kristoff smiled, a glint of amusement in his eyes. "I suppose I'm just a man who's seen a lot of the universe, Your Highness, and maybe someone who's learned how to handle difficult situations." Lila's eyes searched his face, looking for something she couldn't quite name. "Tell me about the universe, Captain. Tell me about the places you've seen, the things you've done." Kristoff settled onto a nearby bench, gesturing for Lila to join him. He began to recount his adventures, painting vivid pictures of distant planets and starry voids. He spoke of battles and negotiations, of wonders and dangers. As he talked, Lila listened intently, her imagination soaring on the wings of his words. For the first time in her life, Lila felt a spark of hope, a glimmer of possibility beyond the confines of her royal duties. Here was a man who embodied the freedom she so desperately craved. And as the night wore on, the bond between them grew, forged in the shared dreams of adventure and the unspoken understanding of their desires. The garden, with its fragrant blossoms and moonlit paths, became their sanctuary, a place where they could speak freely and dream boldly. Each night, Lila would steal away to meet Kristoff, her heart beating with a mix of excitement and fear. And each night, Kristoff would share more of his stories, his own heart beginning to echo the same longing for something more. As the days turned into weeks, the bond between Kristoff and Lila deepened. They were two souls yearning for freedom, bound by duty but drawn together by an undeniable connection. And as their relationship blossomed in secret, they both knew that something had to change. Lila could no longer ignore the pull of the stars, nor could Kristoff deny his growing affection for the princess. The night before her wedding, Lila stood in the garden, her mind racing with the possibilities that lay ahead. She had a choice to make, one that would define her future and shape her destiny. As Kristoff approached, she turned to him, her eyes filled with determination. "Kristoff," she said, her voice steady, "I can't go through with this wedding. I need to be free. I need to see the stars. Will you help me?" Kristoff took her hand, his eyes meeting hers with a fierce resolve. "I will, Lila. We'll leave tonight. We'll find our own path together." And with that, the seeds of their daring escape were sown, their hearts set on a future filled with adventure and the promise of freedom. The cockpit of Domeika was bathed in the soft, flickering glow of the control panels, casting shadows that danced across Kristoff's determined face. Lila sat beside him, her eyes fixed on the vast, swirling expanse of the Cerulean Nebula that lay ahead. The nebula was a notorious region of space, a labyrinth of dense, luminescent gas clouds, treacherous asteroid fields, and unpredictable energy storms. Few dared to navigate its perilous paths, but for Kristoff and Lila, it was their only chance at freedom. "Strap in," Lila Kristoff said, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "This is going to be rough." Lila tightened the straps of her seat, her heart pounding in her chest. She glanced back at the viewport, seeing the ominous silhouettes of the Valorian fleet gaining on them. At the forefront was the royal flagship, its sleek, menacing form cutting through space with relentless precision. Her mother, Queen Lysandra, would not give up easily. Kristoff's fingers danced over the controls, adjusting their trajectory as they approached the nebula's edge. The ship shuddered as it entered the turbulent cloud, the sensors going haywire with the interference. Visibility dropped to near zero, the outside world becoming a swirling maelstrom of blue and purple gases, punctuated by flashes of lightning like energy discharges. "Hold on," Kristoff shouted over the increasing roar of the engines. He activated the ship's shields to maximum, bracing for the onslaught. Domeika rocked violently as they plunged deeper into the nebula, the dense particles buffeting the hull. Lila's knowledge of the royal flagship's weaknesses came into play. "There's a blind spot in their sensor array," she said, her voice tense but clear. "If we can stay within a certain range, we'll be invisible to them." Kristoff nodded, adjusting their course accordingly. The ship weaved through the thickening clouds, narrowly avoiding jagged asteroids that loomed out of the mist like ghostly sentinels. The atmosphere inside the cockpit was electric with tension, each second a battle against the elements and their pursuers. The flagship's sensors struggled in the nebula's chaotic environment, giving Kristoff and Lila a temporary reprieve. But Queen Lysandra was relentless. Using her knowledge of the nebula's patterns, she guided her fleet with uncanny precision, slowly closing the gap. Suddenly, a violent jolt rocked Domeika, alarms blaring as the ship took a direct hit. Sparks flew from the control panels, and the cabin lights flickered ominously. "We've been hit," Lila cried, her eyes wide with fear. Kristoff grimaced, checking the damage reports. "Shields are holding, but we've lost the aft thruster. We're losing speed." Desperation surged through him. He knew that slowing down meant certain capture. His mind raced, searching for a solution. Then, an idea struck him, a maneuver so risky it bordered on madness. "Hang on, Lila," he said, his voice tight with determination. "I'm going to try something." Kristoff diverted power from the forward shields to the engines, pushing them to their limits. The ship surged forward, but without the aft thruster, it began to spin uncontrollably. He fought the controls, using short bursts from the maneuvering thrusters to stabilize their path. As they hurtled through the nebula, Kristoff spotted an unusually dense cloud formation ahead. It was a natural shield, capable of masking their presence but also fraught with danger. "We're going in," he announced, steering Domeika into the heart of the cloud. The ship groaned under the strain, the view outside becoming an impenetrable fog. Inside the flagship, Queen Lysandra watched the nebula with steely resolve. "Keep searching," she ordered. "They can't have gone far." But Kristoff's gamble paid off. The dense cloud masked their energy signature, rendering them invisible to the flagship scanners. For the first time, they had a moment of respite. Breathing heavily, Kristoff leaned back in his seat, his knuckles white from gripping the controls. "We did it," he said, his voice filled with relief. Lila reached out, her hand finding his. "Thank you, Kristoff. For everything." He turned to her, his eyes meeting hers in a moment of shared triumph. But they both knew their journey was far from over. The nebula's dangers still lay ahead, and beyond it, the vast expanse of the galaxy awaited. Kristoff set a course for the outer edge of the nebula, navigating carefully to avoid further damage. The ship limped forward, but each passing moment brought them closer to freedom. As they finally emerged from the Cerulean Nebula, the swirling clouds gave way to the serene blackness of space. The Valorian fleet was nowhere in sight, left behind in the nebula's depths. Kristoff and Lila allowed themselves a moment of quiet victory, the stars stretching out before them like a promise of new beginnings. Their journey together had only just begun, but they faced it with a renewed sense of hope and determination. Far behind, on the royal flagship, Queen Lysandra watched the nebula, her expression softening. She knew her daughter was beyond her reach now, but a part of her couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Lila had inherited her spirit, her determination. Safe travels, my daughter, Lysandra whispered, turning away from the viewport. She had lost this battle, but she had gained a deeper understanding of her daughter's heart. As Domieka sailed into the cosmos, Kristoff and Lila embraced the unknown, their hearts full of anticipation for the adventures that lay ahead. Their love, forged in the crucible of danger and defiance, was a beacon guiding them through the vast, uncharted galaxy. The Cerulean Nebula, a swirling mass of vibrant blues and purples, faded into the backdrop of space as Domieka emerged from its treacherous grasp. The ship, though battered and scarred from the escape, held together, its passengers breathing sighs of relief. Kristoff's hands finally eased off the controls, his knuckles white from the intensity of the pursuit. Beside him, Lila leaned back in her seat, her chest rising and falling with deep, steady breaths, her mind still racing from the adrenaline. "Are you all right?" Kristoff asked, his voice gentle yet edged with concern. Lila nodded, her eyes still fixed on the stars outside. "I'm okay," she whispered, her thoughts a whirlwind of emotions. Relief, fear, excitement, and sadness all mingled within her, creating a tempest of feelings she struggled to sort through. A soft chime interrupted the silence, drawing their attention to the communications console. A message was coming through. Kristoff's brow furrowed as he glanced at Lila, who gave a small, hesitant nod. He reached out and activated the transmission. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the regal figure of Queen Lysandra. Her face, normally stern and composed, showed signs of weariness and sorrow. Lila's heart tightened at the sight of her mother. She had expected anger, perhaps even threats, but the sadness in Lysandra's eyes was something she had not anticipated. "Mother," Lila began, her voice trembling slightly. Lysandra held up a hand, silencing her daughter with a gentle yet commanding gesture. "Lila, my dear," she said, her voice softer than Lila had ever heard it. "You have always been a free spirit, much like your father. I should have seen this coming." Lila's eyes widened, tears welling up as she listened to her mother's words. "Mother, Hush," child Lysandra interrupted again, but this time there was no harshness in her tone. "I have spent many sleepless nights pondering your future, wondering if the path we chose for you was the right one. Seeing you now with such determination and courage, I realize that I may have been wrong." Kristoff watched the exchange in silence, his heart aching for Lila. He could see the conflict in her eyes, the struggle between her duty to her family and her desire for freedom. He reached out, taking her hand in his, offering silent support. "I understand now," Lysandra continued, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I understand your need to explore, to find your own way in this vast galaxy. And while it pains me to let you go, I cannot hold you back any longer." Lila's tears spilled over, running down her cheeks as she listened to her mother's heartfelt words. "Oh, Mother," she sobbed, her voice breaking. "I love you so much. I never wanted to hurt you." "I know," my sweet Lysandra replied, her own tears finally falling. "And I love you more than you can ever know. You will always have a home here. Should you choose to return, the door will always be open for you." Lila nodded, choking on her emotions. "Thank you, Mother. Thank you for understanding." The Queen's image flickered slightly as she gave a small, sad smile. "Go, Lila. Live your life, explore the stars, and find your happiness. That is all any mother could wish for her child." With a final, tearful farewell, the transmission ended, leaving Lila and Kristoff in the quiet hum of the ship's cockpit. Lila turned to Kristoff, her eyes still shining with tears, but now there was a lightness to her expression, a sense of liberation she had never felt before. "She understands," Lila whispered, almost to herself. "She really understands." Kristoff pulled her into his arms, holding her close as the weight of their journey thus far settled around them. "You're free now, Lila," he murmured into her hair. "Free to be whoever you want to be, to go wherever you want to go." Lila clung to him, finding solace in his embrace. "And I choose to be with you," she said softly. "To explore this galaxy together, to create our own destiny." As they held each other, the stars outside the viewport seemed to twinkle with newfound brilliance, each one a beacon of hope and endless possibilities. The future stretched out before them, vast and uncharted, and for the first time in her life, Lila felt truly free. Together, they would face whatever challenges came their way, bound by love and a shared dream of adventure. And no matter where their journey took them, they knew that they had each other, and that was enough. The silence of the cosmos enveloped the ship, Domeka, as it drifted through the boundless void of space. The stars glittered like scattered diamonds against the inky blackness, casting a serene glow over the cockpit. Inside, the atmosphere was charged with a mix of relief, anticipation, and unspoken emotions. Lila sat in the co-pilot seat, her eyes fixed on the star-speckled view ahead. The adrenaline from their escape was beginning to ebb, replaced by a profound sense of freedom and a future unbound by the constraints of her royal lineage. Beside her, Kristoff adjusted the ship's controls, his hands moving with practiced ease, his mind still alert to any potential threats. Kristoff, Lila began, her voice soft yet firm. "There's something I need to tell you." He turned to her, his expression a blend of curiosity and concern. "What is it, Lila?" She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her secret pressing against her heart. "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air for a moment, a fragile declaration that seemed to resonate with the hum of the ship's engines. Kristoff's eyes widened, and a myriad of emotions flickered across his face: surprise, joy, and an overwhelming sense of love. "Lila," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "are you sure?" She nodded, a smile breaking through the apprehension. "Yes, I am. I found out just before the wedding. I wanted to tell you, but with everything happening so fast, I didn't know how." Kristoff reached out, taking her hand in his touch warm and reassuring. "This is incredible news," he said, his eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "A child, our child." Lila felt a swell of emotion, a tear escaping down her cheek. "I was scared," she admitted. "Scared of what it would mean, of bringing a child into a life of uncertainty. But now, with you, I feel hopeful." Kristoff stood and gently pulled her to her feet, wrapping his arms around her. They stood there, holding each other, the vastness of space stretching out before them. "We'll face it together," he murmured into her hair. "We'll give our child a life full of love and adventure. We'll show them the wonders of the galaxy." Lila rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "I love you, Kristoff," she said, her voice full of conviction. "I love you and our child more than anything." He kissed the top of her head, his lips lingering against her hair. "I love you too, Lila. You've given me a reason to dream beyond the stars." They stood in silence for a while, the enormity of their situation settling in. The journey ahead would not be easy, but the promise of their future gave them strength. They had each other, and now they had a new life to protect and nurture. Kristoff gently guided Lila to a small compartment in the ship that he had turned into a cozy living space. The walls were adorned with maps of distant star systems and trinkets from his travels. He led her to a cushioned seat, kneeling before her with a look of earnest determination. "Rest here," he said, his voice tender. "I'll make us something to eat." As Kristoff moved to the small kitchenette, Lila let her gaze wander around the room. Each item told a story of Kristoff's adventures, a life she was now a part of. Her hand instinctively moved to her abdomen, the reality of her pregnancy settling in. Kristoff returned with a tray of simple yet comforting food: freshly baked bread, a variety of cheeses, and fruits from different planets. They shared the meal in quiet contentment, the bond between them growing stronger with each passing moment. After they finished, Kristoff took Lila's hand once more. "Come with me," he said, leading her to the observation deck. The deck was a small, enclosed space with a panoramic view of the stars. Kristoff pressed a button, and the lights dimmed, allowing the celestial vista to take center stage. They sat together, side by side, gazing out at the infinite expanse. "This," Kristoff said, gesturing to the stars, "is our new beginning. We'll explore the galaxy together, find a place to call home, and build a life for our family." Lila leaned against him, feeling a profound sense of peace. "I can't wait," she whispered. "For the adventures, for the discoveries, for our child's first steps and words. I can't wait to share it all with you." Kristoff wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. "We'll make it happen, Lila. No matter what challenges come our way, we'll face them together." As they sat there, enveloped in the serene glow of the stars, Lila knew that their journey was just beginning. The cosmos stretched out before them, full of untold wonders and endless possibilities. And with Kristoff by her side, she felt ready to embrace whatever the future held. Together, they watched as Domeika sailed through the starlit sea, the promise of a new life guiding their way. The darkness of space stretched out before them, an endless canvas dotted with the shimmering glow of distant stars. Kristoff sat at the helm of Domeika, the familiar hum of the ship's engines a comforting presence. Beside him, Lila gazed out of the viewport, her eyes wide with wonder and anticipation. The Cerulean Nebula, now a memory behind them, had been a trial of their resolve and ingenuity. The nebula's swirling blues and greens had tested Kristoff's piloting to the limit, and Lila's strategic insights had saved them more than once. Now, as they cruised into open space, the enormity of their freedom began to sink in. Kristoff glanced over at Lila, her profile illuminated by the soft light of the control panel. She turned to meet his gaze, a small, contented smile playing on her lips. The joy and relief in her eyes mirrored his own feelings. They had made it against all odds. They were free. "Where to next?" Captain Lila asked, her voice soft but filled with excitement. Kristoff grinned, a boyish excitement lighting up his features. "Anywhere we want, Princess. The galaxy is ours to explore." Lila laughed, a sound that felt like a song in the stillness of space. "No more princess," she reminded him, touching her abdomen gently. "Just Lila. And soon, we'll have another little explorer on board." The mention of the baby brought a new depth to their shared glance. The future felt vast and uncertain, but also brimming with possibilities. They had not just escaped a life of confinement, they had stepped into a life of potential and discovery. Kristoff's thoughts drifted to their journey ahead. He imagined visiting the floating cities of Arcturus, the crystalline caves of Vega, and the bioluminescent forests of Andromeda. Each destination a chapter in their new life, each adventure a story to tell their child. "We should send a message to your mother," Kristoff suggested. "Let her know we're safe and happy." Lila nodded, a wistful look crossing her face. "She'll be relieved to know we're all right. And I do want her to be part of our child's life, even if from a distance." Kristoff initiated the long-range communicator, sending a brief but heartfelt message to Queen Lysandra. The Queen's face appeared on the screen, regal and composed, but with a softness in her eyes that Kristoff had never seen before. Lila, Queen Lysandra began, her voice steady yet tender. "I'm glad to see you safe. Know that my thoughts are with you always, and when you're ready, your home is here." "Thank you, Mother," Lila replied, her voice thick with emotion. "For understanding, for everything. I love you." With the message sent and the link closed, Kristoff took Lila's hand. They sat in silence for a moment, absorbing the magnitude of their choices and the path ahead. "Do you think we'll ever go back?" Lila asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe one day," Kristoff said, squeezing her hand. "But for now, let's write our own story." With a final glance at the starlit expanse before them, Kristoff set a course for the unknown. The stars stretched infinitely, a testament to the endless possibilities of their journey. The Domeika glided smoothly, leaving the past behind and embracing the promise of tomorrow. As they ventured further into the cosmos, Lila leaned her head on Kristoff's shoulder, her hand resting on her growing belly. Together, they dreamed of the adventures to come, the places they would see, and the stories they would tell their child. The ship sailed on, a lone vessel in the vast ocean of space, carrying its precious cargo of hope, love, and a future uncharted. And so, Kristoff and Lila began their new chapter, not bound by destiny, but writing it with each star they passed and each new world they discovered. The galaxy was vast, but their hearts were full, and with each other they knew they could face anything the universe had to offer. Together, they would explore the cosmos, one star at a time, their love lighting the way forward into the endless night.